Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're going to travel way back in time to the year 1012 in China's Song Dynasty. We're here to solve a really strange historical mystery that happened at the very top of the empire. So here's the puzzle we're trying to solve. It's happening in the court of Emperor Zhenzong. The emperor has a really talented official he wants to promote, but his prime minister says no. And the reason why is, well, it's pretty shocking. To get to the bottom of this, we're going to break it down into 5 parts. We'll start with this weird rule, then dig into why it existed, and uncover a secret history that honestly changes everything. Okay, so let's set the scene. Imagine it's the year 1012. The emperor, Zhenzong, decides he wants to make this official, Wang Chenrou, his new prime minister. But the guy who's already prime minister, Wang Dan, is completely against the idea. And what's Wang Dan's big reason? Well, it's not what you'd think. He didn't say Wang Chenrou wasn't skilled enough or wasn't loyal. Nope. He just said that because Wang Chenrou was from the south, he couldn't get the job. He claimed it was just an unwritten rule that everybody knew and accepted. And that's the real mystery, isn't it? It just sounds so unfair, so there's got to be a deeper story here. Why on earth was being from the south a problem? Well, it turns out Prime Minister Wang Dan wasn't the only one who felt this way. This bias, this prejudice against Southerners was actually super common among all the officials from the north. And the evidence for this is, well, it's pretty strong. There was another famous official who literally cheated on a national exam just to make sure a Southerner didn't get the highest score. And he was proud of it. People were even spreading rumors that the very first emperor left a secret stone tablet saying, "No Southerners for prime minister." And if you want more proof, just look at this group of officials. Their enemies gave them the nickname the Five Ghosts. And when you look at where they're from, you see the connection. Every single one of them was from the south. They all came from a kingdom that had been conquered by this song, a kingdom called the Southern Tang. So you have to ask yourself, what's really going on here? This feels like more than just simple prejudice. The feeling is too strong. Were the northern officials acting this way just because they disliked Southerners? Or was it something deeper? Were they afraid of them? To answer that question, we've got to look closer at the kingdom these Southerners came from. And this, my friends, is where the story takes a really surprising twist. We need to talk about the Southern Tang. You see, the way we usually think about the Southern Tang, it's completely wrong. We remember its last king as this amazing poet who wrote these beautiful, sad poems about losing his kingdom. And because of that, we kind of think the kingdom itself was weak and fragile. But the reality? Oh, it was totally different. The truth is, the Southern Tang was the toughest enemy the Song Dynasty ever faced. Other kingdoms fell in a matter of months, but the Southern Tang, the Song spent years just getting ready to fight them. And even when their poet king was surrounded in his capital city, he held out for 10 months. This kingdom was a really, really hard nut to crack. But it wasn't just about their military might. The Northerners were afraid of something else, something they felt they just didn't have. And that something was culture. So, what's with this huge number? Over 100,000. Well, that is the number of books in the Southern Tang's royal library. At the very same time, the Song Dynasty in the north, they only had about 10,000. The Southern Tang had 10 times more books. And to see how the Southerners felt about the North, you just need to read this quote. An official from the South visited the northern capital, Kaifeng, and when he was asked what he thought, he said it was like a pile of ash. To him, it felt rough and uncultured compared to the beautiful cities of the South. You have to understand, the Southern Tang wasn't just a cultural center. It was the cultural center of China at the time. They perfected a style of poetry, making it a true art form. They produced the best paper, the best ink, the best everything for artists and scholars. They had the top minds, and they were incredibly wealthy. The northern conquerors knew this, and it made them feel inferior. A really good way to think about it is like a seed bank for civilization. For decades, the North had been torn apart by war and chaos. But during all that time, the Southern Tang was this peaceful place that protected Chinese culture. It was keeping the seeds of art and knowledge safe, waiting for peacetime to plant them again. Okay, so there's our answer. The northern officials weren't just discriminating. They were afraid of the South's powerful culture. But that's not where the story ends. this division between North and South didn't last forever. There's this idea in history, a kind of 40-year rule. It says that it takes about 40 years for the living memory of a big war to fade away. After that, a new generation comes along that doesn't remember the fighting. Now look at how perfectly our story fits this timeline. The Southern Tang was conquered in 975. 40 years later is 1015. And just 2 years after that, Wong Ken-roa, the very same Southerner who was blocked from the job, finally became prime minister. And this is maybe the most amazing part of the whole story. The powerful culture of the Southern Tang, it wasn't destroyed. Instead, the Song dynasty absorbed it. The art, the poetry, the knowledge of the South became the very foundation for the Song dynasty's own golden age. In the end, the culture of the people who lost the war ended up defining the winners. So the story of the Southern Tang really shows us that winning on the battlefield isn't everything. Political defeat isn't always cultural defeat. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many times in history have the conquerors been secretly shaped and changed by the very people they conquered? Thank you for joining this explainer.